Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first NISS Career Fair 2021. My name is Irina Gainanova. I'm an associate professor at the Department of Statistics at Texas A&M University. It is my great pleasure to be the moderator for this event. I had a privilege of being one of the panelists last year, and it's been a great experience. And I know that a lot of attendees benefited from the advice that has been given. I know that many of you may have a lot of uncertainties during this time. COVID unfortunately continues, and that changes how we do things. But don't get discouraged. There are a lot of positions out there. There are people who can give great advice, and talent is always valued, whether it's during the pandemic or not. There are many job options out there, and in fact, Texas A&M is hiring this year as well. And today we have three excellent speakers to tell us about their departments and give you advice on how you can be more competitive on the market today. So our first speaker is Murli Haran, who is the professor of statistics and department head at Penn State University. So you can share your screen.
Thanks very much, Irina. Everyone can see this? This is looking okay?
All yes, right. This is looking great.
Great, thanks. All right, well, it's great to kick this off. It's a great idea to have this virtual job fair. So let me just begin by making sure. So I'll just begin with a quick intro to Penn State stats. It's a diverse and world-class research program we have here, and there's a wide variety of theoretical research and lots of applications and interdisciplinary research, and that's quite a strength of our department. We have connections to researchers and departments across the university. And here's just a few. The Huck Institute of Life Sciences, a world-class Center for Infectious Disease Dynamics that's a stone's throw from our building here. I myself work with folks from there. The Institute for Computational Data Sciences, the Neuroscience Institute, et cetera, et cetera. This is just to give a sense of the importance that we place on interdisciplinary research in addition to our theoretical work. Just a sampling of some of our research areas. It's alphabetically it shows up first, but it's great. Astrostatistics is I would say, argues sort of synonymous with Penn State, because we're one of the first places to really have this blossom. It's really thriving in our department and at our university now. And then a number of other fields you can see here, from causal inference to functional data to imaging, infectious disease modeling, and so on. And this is just a sampling of the kinds of topics that I think we have real strengths in. It's a great environment for faculty, especially junior faculty. We spend a lot of time thinking about mentoring and support for junior faculty, and in general, it's just a great environment for faculty. And so we have nearly 50 faculty, so that feels like a largish department, but it feels very cozy and close. So you know everybody, and you see everyone. You know, people like to chat informally in the corridors. It's just a very friendly and welcoming environment. Just to give you a sense of the 50 faculty, about 20 to 25 at any given time are tenure track. Then we have a number 19 outstanding research and teaching faculty, and then we always have postdoctoral fellows and visitors. That last number is very low now because of COVID. It's often closer to 10 to 15 people at 15, 20 at any given time. We have a thriving undergraduate program, very strong PhD program, outstanding students in our PhD program. And we have this terrific MAS program, which is Masters in Applied Statistics. We're one of the first departments to have an online program. Us and Texas A&M actually are well known for having an online program. Essentially before most other people were doing this, and it's still very, very successful. And these are numbers I pulled from our director yesterday, about altogether close to about 500 people taking our online, enrolled in our program, plus many more who take classes online. We have a very friendly and collaborative faculty and students. And as I said before, there's a lot of mentoring that happens here formally and informally. And we have excellent support from the Iberly College of Science and the institutes. We're in a small college with seven departments. our dean is just one floor above from here, so I talk to her all the time, extremely supportive. That's one of the many great things about being here. We have a lot of emphasis on education. We have 5 stat education experts plus numerous teaching initiatives. This is somewhat unusual in a strong research environment to have the stat ed folks actually in the stats department. This has had lots of benefits to the students as well as faculty. And the STAT Consulting Center is central to our missions for research, education, service, and we take this very seriously. And it's really a dynamic environment, and we have lots of hiring planned in the upcoming years, especially this year. So let me just dive into the hiring. But before I dive into the hiring, here's just a quick look at the many faces that make up our faculty. And I'm just going to give you a second to stare at some of the people, and then I will cut to the hiring. So here are the faculty positions in statistics. We actually have multiple open rank tenure track faculty positions. We're hiring at all levels, assistant, associate, and full professor. And people say, how many positions do we have? And essentially, it's as many positions as we can make good arguments for. So we can at least a couple, and I can imagine us going up to 5 or so if we get really strong candidates. And so I hope many of you will apply. And given the audience, I'm just going to focus a little bit on the assistant professor qualifications rather than the associate and full professor. You need a PhD in statistics or a closely related field by the time of appointment, demonstrated potential for excellence in research and teaching. And we're really open to a wide variety of research areas spanning theory, methodology, computing, applications, interdisciplinary work. As you can tell from our department, there's just a lot of variety. And so we're a very open-minded department and very interested in really good people from every area. We also, of course, are looking for people who will contribute beyond just their research papers. So people who will build new connections across campus, take an interest in teaching, developing new classes, mentoring students, so great PhD students as well as masters and our undergraduates, who will actively participate in professional organizations and really help our colleagues and contribute to a supportive environment. So we want people with doors open. Yes, there's some challenges with COVID, but that won't last forever. And here at the bottom, I've put in a link for the tenure track positions and apply. Faculty positions, we also have a faculty position in the Statistical Consulting Center. So we're looking for someone with a PhD in stats or closely related field, someone who has a very strong interest in consulting and collaborative research. So clearly it would have to be someone who's very strong on communication and also likes to teach people how to communicate. So this is a very interesting position that allows for a balance between consulting, collaborative research, and methods research. Our current director of the consulting center, Maggie New, who's listed here as a contact, is a great example. She writes great methods papers, and she also does all this great consulting work, and she teaches our students how to be good consultants. It's a very unusual and very interesting mix of things that one can be involved in with this position. We have multiple teaching faculty positions, and as I said, we have a strong emphasis on stat ed. So we're looking for people with a PhD in statistics or closely related field, but in exceptional cases, we might consider someone with an MS. And we have people who have a strong interest in curriculum development, developing new classes, innovative methods for teaching existing classes, and so on. And Scott Rhodes is chairing that committee. And of course, in all of these cases, you're welcome to contact me. All right, so here's the advice part of things. So getting ready for your job search. So here's a sort of a very general thing that I'm sure you've heard before. If you do interesting research, more people will be interested in your research, right? So of course, you must work on things that you find interesting. Otherwise, you won't enjoy it, and it's just not worth pursuing. But you do want to keep an eye on what's of interest in academia today. And a way for you to do this is to talk to mentors, attend talks, conferences, read and skim journals regularly. And there are many ways for you to do this. Start a journal club with your friends, and also just keep your eyes and ears open. Attend seminars, right? Even the ones that you don't understand, there will be many, you will still pick up some interesting ideas about what's important and what's exciting. You should work towards having some publications before we're going on the job market. That's very important these days to have at least a publication. But of course, that shouldn't be the only goal. Sometimes we have people showing up with just 1 or 2 publications, but you can see that there's some depth in the work and there's something very interesting, and we're more likely to interview them than someone who's written a lot of papers, but it's unclear what the impact of the work might be. So, but yes, as a practical matter, it's important to have at least a publication. Work on your communication skills. So you want to communicate clearly in talks to many different audiences. So faculty, undergraduates, grads, scientists from other fields, non-academics. The more opportunities you take, my students who have gone off and said yes to all sorts of invitations and given talks have really benefited from speaking to different audiences. There's a fluency that you get that only comes from practice and from thinking through talking to different audiences. Make sure you can write well. This is useful for papers, grants, research statements, cover letters, et cetera, and of course, there's no good job out there where communication skills won't be valuable. You should develop strong computing skills. If you're a modern statistician, no matter what kind of work you're doing, you should have some computing skills because a lot of the most exciting work these days involves some degree of computing. And it's good to develop depth in your research area as well as general knowledge in other areas. And the way to do it is to just be a sponge, learn from classmates, faculty, seminars, reading, go to conferences, workshops, big ones, small ones. Be open to helping others, helping others with their questions, and also discussing your own research. This will help you with every aspect of all the other things that I talked about earlier. So this is valuable. So being collegial actually will benefit you. So now to sort of get into the details, the academic job search, searching for a job and getting an interview. There are sort of 3 main steps to getting a job. First, you have to get an interview. So this is getting your foot in the door based on your application. And then this is a new one that increasingly you have to get an on-site interview based on a phone or a Zoom interview. This is becoming more common. This is certainly what's happening in our department in the last few years. And then you have the on-site interview, and then you get an offer based on that. So if you can clear these 3 steps, you have a job offer, right? So I'm just, and a quick note about application strategy. When in doubt, you should apply to both faculty and postdoc positions. You never know how things will line up. So just apply to everything that sounds interesting, and then you can make a decision on the fly. If you're unsure about whether you should apply to a place or not, I say apply. There are more good places than you or even your advisor might know about. People sometimes don't have updated knowledge about departments. Departments evolve quickly, so be open. However, if you're pretty sure for whatever reason, geographical or some other reason, that you don't want to go to a place, do not apply. This wastes everyone's time. So how do you get an interview invitation? You should do interesting research, have publications, good letters. It's valuable to write a thoughtful, clear, and concise research statement which describes your current and future research goals. You should both have current as well as your future research goals. You should write a good cover letter. Sometimes people think that doesn't matter, but it often at some stage of the interviewing process or hiring process, people will read this. So you should be concise. Try to find connections to the specific department. Don't make one up if it isn't there, but if it exists, try to find one. And respond to specific initiative strengths of the departments. If there's something particular about the position, you should try to address it. You shouldn't just write a generic letter. And then same way with teaching and diversity statements, you should provide clear and concise statements as requested. And make sure you obtain feedback on your statements, especially from faculty who have served on hiring committees. That's extremely valuable. So that's the first stage. That's just trying to get your foot in the door. So you get an invitation for a phone or a Zoom call. So you should prepare for this interview. You should be aware of the position details. You should take a look at the faculty research profiles from the website. If you know nothing about the department, if you sit there and it looks like you're asking the person to explain to you why there's anything of interest in the department, that will not work. So, and it's always good to have a thoughtful question or two for the interviewer. sometimes something generic, and sometimes something specific to the department. Pay close attention to any of the questions asked, and if you're nervous or you're unclear about something, you don't understand what someone said, just confirm that you've understood. Is this what you meant? And then answer. And be prepared to describe in 2 minutes or under your main research accomplishments and interests. This is something you should practice. This is what people call the elevator talk. This is valuable no matter where you go. This is also valuable at parties. So this is just a good thing for you to be good at. Be prepared to explain your particular interest in the department. And different places will have different formats for these interviews. You should really prepare accordingly. The on-site interviews are roughly the same at all places, but the online ones or phone ones, you should really pay attention to this, some specific format. And then you have to try to get the offer. Let's say you made it through all this, you get on site, you have to do the same kind of preparation for the on-site interview as a phone, Zoom interview, do some homework. Your job talk is very important. So often I hear people say, sell yourself. I'm very uncomfortable with that. People are uncomfortable many times with selling themselves. We're not salespeople, even though people like to say you need to sell what you do. If you communicate very clearly, that will accomplish the task. So what you've done, your future research plans, why your work is important and interesting. Why did you do this in the first place? You shouldn't assume people know why this is important and interesting. You have to also explain why your research is challenging or deep. Just putting fancy, lots of equations, that's easy to do, but you have to explain why, this particular theorem has this challenge, or this particular computation problem was difficult because of this, or your application, no one knew how to model these data. So you need to explain why this stuff is difficult, and you need to make sure people understand what you did. And this is also a great place to convince people that you'd be a good teacher and collaborator. So you have to make sure people understand, essentially the first half an hour for sure, people should understand everything you're saying, all the graduate students should. And they should really understand the whole talk, but the first half an hour especially. And then during conversations with the faculty, the individual conversations, make sure you answer questions clearly and concisely. Make an effort to learn about the research in the department. If it sounds like all you care about is talking about yourself and you don't care about them, that will send the message that maybe all you care about is talking about yourself and you don't care about them. And maybe that will make people feel like you may not be the greatest colleague. So you don't have to be fantastically charming and engaging. You just have to be polite, willing to listen, and make sure that there's an exchange of just a nice back and forth. So with all of that, just some closing remarks. I should mention the job search may not always turn out as you'd like. So don't despair. As a statistician, the good news is that you typically have lots of other wonderful job opportunities that are you can have very fulfilling careers in many, many ways. So don't despair. Also, if you can take a visiting position or a postdoc somewhere, including maybe at your own institution, you can try again. I know people who've done this a couple of times because they're really intent on this. Be aware, as statisticians, this should be easy for you to see. There's a lot of luck involved in terms of timing. So there's lots of randomness and factors that are not in your control, such as when your publications when things went through the publication process, the state of the economy, pandemics, right? Hiring initiatives in particular areas. You cannot control all of this. So it is not necessarily a reflection on you if it didn't work out. So you might try again a few times. And of course, if you're one of the lucky ones and you have multiple academic job offers, discuss with trusted mentors how and whether to negotiate. Don't have these conversations without talking to somebody else first. You don't really know the full ins and outs and how these things work. So you should get advice from people on how to choose between the offers and how and whether to negotiate. You don't always have to negotiate, but often you do. So finally, please pay close attention to your quality of life when making decisions. Would you rather have a more collaborative or competitive environment? There are some environments that are just very collaborative. I would argue that ours is like that. Some environments people do well, but it's very competitive, and that is not always fun for people who are there at the time. And then you also want to think, where would you have more money and time? Boy, time is so huge, right? For doing things that you enjoy. And so how can you continue to do things outside of work to make sure you have a balanced perspective on research tenure? That cannot be your entire life. And if it's not your entire life, you'll actually do better. And also, of course, it's important for you to enjoy your life anyway, all aspects of it. So here are some concluding slides that just shows you pictures of where we are. So we're in the Appalachian Mountains of central Pennsylvania. It's really quite beautiful here. And we're in a college town, so we're not a major city, but we are very close to lots of major cities. And I certainly make it to all of these cities very frequently, both for seminars, for professional reasons, but also just for entertainment and other things. And I have lots of friends in the Northeast. So there's a lot of nice things about living in this area. It's really a lively college town. This is a rather quiet day, but this is an old, well-known restaurant in the area. It's a really lovely campus, and this is our building. This is the stats department. And there's lots of outdoor activities. This lake is about 25 minutes driving distance from where we are. It's really a beautiful place. So Penn State Stats has world-class researchers and educators, and it's a really very supportive environment. There's a sense of warmth that struck me when I was interviewing here and didn't know much about the department. That really attracted me to it. And has a great quality of life. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and all the best with your search. Thank you.
Thank you, Murali, for a great talk. I would like to remind all the attendees that we have a chat open and Q&A. If you have any questions, either to a specific panelist or in general, please feel free to write in Q&A. And at the end of the event, we will open the floor for all the questions. Our next speaker is Tian Zheng, who is a professor and department head at the Department of Statistics at Columbia University.
Thank you for the introduction, and thanks for the excellent first presentation from Murali. I feel I can skip a lot of my bullet points just to get to the point about something specific about Columbia, but I will also try my best to share some of my advices for our future generation of statisticians. So Columbia Department of Statistics at Columbia has a very long history. The activity actually started well before the formation of the department, and when Hotelling decided to leave Columbia to start a department in North Carolina, the university decided to start its own statistics department. So this year we are celebrating the 75th anniversary of the department, and this will be a great time to join the celebration by becoming a member of the department. The department is in the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, a division of the university. This division have 26 departments in 3 divisions: social sciences, humanities, and natural sciences. Statistics is unique. We're in natural sciences, even though we collaborate with all divisions and beyond the Faculty of Arts and Sciences. So sometimes we find it ourselves to be very different from the other natural science department. And we're also part of the university that housed a big portion of the educational offering of the university, from the Columbia College, the undergraduate crown jewel of Columbia, the general study, a college that provide alternative and inclusive undergraduate education experiences, School of Arts, and the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences, and the School of Professional Studies. Columbia has two major sites. One is the Morningside campus. The other is the Medical Center of Columbia University. We're located on Morningside campus at 116th Street and Broadway. And it is inside New York City. Actually, the official name of Columbia University is Columbia University in the city of New York. So we're proud of our location, but we're far away from the busy quarters of the city. You will find the neighborhood of Columbia resemble the small college town feel, buzz with energy from the students, and far away from all the big metropolitan atmosphere of the city. The department is vibrant and fast growing. So here is a photo collage of all the tenure and tenure track faculty members of the department, and plus our instructional and non-tenure track faculty. So we have 24 tenured or tenure track faculty. Because of the need for teaching, we routinely have non-tenure track term assistant professors, similar to what typical practice in mathematics. And we have 5 regular renewable lecturers. We have 6 affiliate faculty. The department teaching routinely more than 6,000 students in our classes, both part of our academic programs and then part of just service courses to other majors and concentrations. We have 200 undergraduate majors and minors. The department run a large MA program, and every year we serve 2 cohorts at a time. So we have about 700 MA students each year. We have 60 PhD students and growing, and we have somewhere between 10 to 20 postdocs at a given time. So the way we think about, before I go into the positions we have open this year, those positions are there to fulfill the mission of a modern statistics department as we see ourselves. This is nothing different, much different from nearly every other department out there, on research, on training, on education, and also on leadership, as we see as a discipline in terms of research and collaboration. So the department has a long history of collaboration, and as currently we are, our department faculty are either taking leadership roles or have been longtime collaborator with many institutes at Columbia. Here I just select a few where we have a substantial presence in the neuroscience, cancer dynamics, data science institute, which is entering its 7th year at Columbia, Population Center, Social Sciences, and Earth Institute. Columbia is also recently started a climate school with a lot of resources and commitment to develop that frontier of research, and our department will also participate actively in that front. We have multiple available positions. So here is a overview of all the positions. So here I list both the faculty position and postdoc position, but I will focus more on the faculty positions. We have 1 tenure track assistant professor position where we consider all areas of statistics and probability. Our teaching load has been reduced about 4 or 5 years ago. So currently our regular tenure track and tenured professor teach 2 courses a year. And then we also have multiple term assistant professors. These term assistant professors have a term up to 4 years. And then we also look in all area of system probability. The teaching load is 3, but negotiable. Then we usually balance between repeated courses and the need to develop new courses so that we can support these junior colleagues at the beginning of the career to have enough bandwidth to develop their research. So the term assistant professor position have gained popularity with young colleagues who are not yet ready for the tenure track job market for different reasons. Some of them were exploring a new research direction. They would appreciate a little bit more time to develop that further. Some of them were due to personal reasons, such as two-body problems. We also have opening in the lecture, which is renewable, and we also search in all area of statistics and probability. This is teaching position with a heavier teaching load and 6, and here the 6 course load can be replaced by taking leadership and director positions in our academic programs, which is a common practice in our department. And here we have at least 2 postdoc positions. One is jointly with Data Science Institute. The other was a one-sentence introduction, is our rather new fellowship, is Distinguished Postdoc Fellowship, where we try to bring promising future stars to our department. And it's a 2-year fellowship with no teaching obligation. And we offer a very competitive package. And all of these will be posted soon on our website. So the first question that the panel, when I received the panel invitation, here are a few questions that help us prepare for what we would like to share. The first is, what are the preferred qualifications for a tenure track or tenure position? So our department can consider rather broadly about what the PhD is in. So we have had colleagues who have their PhD in neuroscience, in related discipline, computer science, and of course, statistics and mathematics. We also had a colleague who had PhD in electronic engineering. So as the previous panelists have shared, when you apply for a faculty job, even though you will be talking about your past achievements, we really care more about your potential, because we're not hiring based on your achievement, we're hiring for your future. So therefore, that we are looking in potential in research, especially as statistics is in a very exciting time of data science. There are a lot of interesting problems in both the foundational area of statistics theory and method, or in application. So we are looking for potential in research on the frontier of statistics, either going deep or going, into other disciplines. And we, as a department with a lot of educational activities, we look for an excellent teacher and mentor, both inside classroom and outside classroom. Our department is quite collegial. As we grow fast, we want to find a colleague that will contribute to the diversity and excellence of our community, and also the academic community at broad, because this colleague not only going to work with us inside Columbia, will also represent Columbia to the outside community. So we're looking for a collegial colleague that contribute to the profession and to the society. And Columbia often have this interesting sentence in the faculty handbook when talk about tenure review. They mention that we are looking for future leaders, or the leader in discipline, leader in creating impact in society. So this sometimes create a confusion when for a fresh PhD about what it is a leader. It's not something that is a homework assignment. You do A and B and C, you can call yourself leader. So here, when we talk about leadership, we're thinking of people who are creative, who are problem solvers, who look at a good problem and try to use their skill set and knowledge to solve them, and also people who are self-starters, who look at the problem and decided to work on them without anybody tell them to do that. And the second question is, what are the potential distinguished characteristics of candidates for tenure track and tenure faculty position in your institution? And I think I spent a lot of time thinking about this and thinking about all the candidates we have seen in the past. Two things stand out. One is independence. I often have candidates using examples of their dissertation research or project outside their dissertation research to demonstrate that their independence, they attained independence at the the final stage of their doctor training. This is actually a big part of doctor training. When we want our students to get to the stage where they feel like they can develop into a future researcher independently, and that is also shows the potential for growth. So that we not only we see a natural trajectory growth from your dissertation work, which is almost default, and everyone can demonstrate that. We also are looking for potential for independent growth, for for the ability to hit the ground running, given what Columbia has to offer. And we have a lot of eager collaborators at Columbia, and which translates to the second. This actually resonated quite well with what Mirali shared about communication, about the ability to teach, about ability to consult. And there are a lot of such opportunities at Columbia. And we think somebody who have a strong skill set in collaboration will benefit a lot from the environment we have at Columbia. So what advice would I give to job candidates? The first advice is actually quite much against the book. I'm showing on the right-hand side, the Professor is in book. And there's a chapter says that be yourself is the last person you want to be. So here, when I say be yourself, I mean you want to be authentic. If your interest is in applied statistics, and then you go to a department that is known for the theoretical and mathematical contribution to the profession, you don't want to change yourself to say you also have a strong interest in mathematical statistics, because that's not what your interests are. So you want to be authentic. You want to find a department that hire you for who you are, not hire you for something that you manage to demonstrate at a job interview, because tenure track is a long time, and you do not want to follow the advice or fake it until you make it. You want to be authentic so that you find the perfect match between the department and who you really are. The second advice is definitely get advice from mentor in terms of how to be professional and be prepared for the interview. The reason for that is you are providing a lot of data on your job interview, and all the job interview are a Bayesian process. We all have priors, we all have expectation of what the student should behave. If your data does not agree with the prior, that can be interpreted differently, even though it does not really reflect what you really are. So you want to be prepared. You want to know what is being expected at job interview, and then don't create additional noises and randomness in the process. And which translates to the third one: study the department, its faculty, and then this allow you to prepare for both big and small talks. And at the job interviews, we often get nervous. So you do that by preparing the big talk, which is a job talk. Mirali gave an excellent set of advice about what you need to talk about. Focus on demonstrate your potential, demonstrate your future contributions by talking about your past achievements. That's a big talk. Everyone usually does a good job preparing for the big talk. The small talks are things that how you get a conversation started, how you introduce yourself, how to, what are some of the non-academic topics that you can pick up over meals. These are a way of demonstrate a wholesome person who you are, and this require preparation, because if you just be yourself, like your typical relaxed, laid back, nervous self, that may create noises in the data that we're seeing at job interviews, because we expect you to be prepared. So if you come unprepared, that create a bias. So one thing that I invite my own students to think when they think about academic job is to think as early as possible about what you need in order to succeed. This is actually not an easy exercise. So if you want to look for something challenging to do, do this. First, this sentence have two things. One is succeed, right? So everybody's definition of success is different. So what do you want to be? Think about what's your definition of success in academia. You want to be you all have role models. You look at somebody in our profession, you tell yourself, I want to be like that. And that is where you can get started. The second one is what you need. So you need to think about what kind of environment you want to be in, what kind of resources. Is high performance computing super important? Is access to a world-class earth science department something that important to you? these are the resources, collaborators and mentors, and you can start thinking about startup packages. You should not start thinking about that after you're seeing all the perks people throw at you, because you will have a hard time choosing. And think beforehand what is important to you. That will help you tremendously in negotiation things, because you know what you can let go and what you cannot. And learn about the process and enjoy the process. Read books, read blog posts, talk to your mentors, and enjoy. Because one thing I share with my student is job interviews during this academic job search is where you get to talk to many senior colleagues in the profession, and they will pay 100% attention to you. They will hear about your research. Is amazing experience, and enjoy that. So for the students in this session, I think if you're early in your doctoral study, it's a very exciting time for doing research in statistics right now. So I think if you being young is being able to take risks and invest in learn about subject matter, learn about computing, learn about databases, cloud computing. There's so many things that has now been included in a skill set of a modern statistician. And also there are so many exciting things there. You constantly feel like you're in a candy store, and constantly look for the true love, because research always have up and downs. There will be pain, there will be late hours, there will be time when you ask yourself what is really a work-life balance. I think it's important for you to know where your passion line. It could be vague early on, but eventually, if you find true love and passion in your research, that is what you get to going, because you are not looking for a job, you're looking for a lifelong career if you're going into academic job market. And another question I get a lot is, people ask themselves, is academic career for really good for them? So, join the professional societies, attend conferences. That's where you can learn a lot about the academic lifestyle in a way. You talk with your professors, mentor about their career paths, their failures, their struggles. That's a great way for you to, get a comprehensive perspective. I also try out formal and informal teaching and mentoring. Teaching and mentoring is an inseparable part of the academic job. So you'll have to enjoy that. Otherwise, you will dread about it, and you'll feel that's the price you pay in order to do research. And that is not the right kind of mindset to enjoy a career in academia. And then understand that everyone has imposter syndrome. And when I say this is understand it's a syndrome, understand it's not real, and understand everyone suffer from that, and read about how many people overcome it and talk to your mentors about it. Everyone have a different work-life balance, and find your own, whether it is work very hard and take a few days off, or stick to a schedule every day and find hobbies, find things that allow you to take a break from research is important, something important to develop early on. So with that, I end, and welcome and join us at Columbia.
Thank you so much, Tian, for a great presentation. Again, as a reminder, we have Q&A open, and we will switch to Q&A at the end of all the talks. Our next speaker is Joshua Tess, who is professor and department head at the University of South Carolina.
Okay, good morning, or I guess it's good afternoon now, depending on where you are. I'd like to start off by thanking the organizers of this great fair for the invitation, and thanks to Doctors Zhang and Haran for their great talks. Their talks were so good, we could probably maybe just skip mine, I guess, but so that was all the advice that they gave was really valuable. Presumably all of us are here today because we have some type of an interest, or at least a speculative interest, in going into a career in academics. And Dr. Zhang touched on this, is that academics is a great career. You can, and that comes from someone that started his career not in academics. I started as an engineering statistician at United Technologies. When I told my PhD advisor at NC State that I wanted to go in industry, he stopped talking to me after. He thought that I was such a great fit for academics that he was just befuddled when I told him that I was going into industry. And ultimately he was right. About 10 months into my job, I decided, I really didn't like the 9-to-5 lifestyle. I really missed teaching, doing research. And so I remember sending him an email one night around midnight. I think it was Sunday, kind of lamenting the next day of having to go to work. And I said, Bill, you were right. And so I started the academic search, much like many of you are doing now. And so I can share with you some of the experiences that I had. Of course, that was 21 years ago. But many of the central themes that our first two speakers talked about earlier and my experiences are synchronous. And so I can talk about some of those. So let's see. So today I'll just talk a little bit about our department and then address some of the questions that all three speakers are addressing. So the Department of Statistics at University of South Carolina, like many departments, we grew out of the Department of Mathematics. About 35 years ago, the founding chair was Joe Padgett, who was a reliability expert, and our department was founded on three basic principles: the so-called three-legged stool of academics, the excellence in research, teaching, and service to the profession. So unlike Penn State and Columbia, we're quite a bit smaller departments, and I think that drawing that contrast is important because as you start your job search, one of the first central questions you're going to want to ask yourself is what kind of department do you want to be in? Of course, even within departments of statistics, there's great diversity, and you're seeing that here with University of South Carolina, Penn State, and Columbia. But there are also other types of job opportunities. So for example, departments of biostatistics, smaller liberal arts universities where maybe statistics still hasn't escaped the grasp of mathematics yet. And so one of the things you're going to have to think about is what type of a career do you want? What type of an institution do you want? And Dr. Zhang, of course, touched on that. So as you can see, our department is quite a bit smaller. We're a much smaller group. We have 12 tenure track faculty, instructors that teach a lot of our courses for our friends in other colleges and departments. And so we have 38 graduate students, almost 100 undergraduates. That doesn't include minors. We have a healthy collection of minors too. I think it's about 50. And so our department is a NISS affiliate member. We're a very popular choice for regional conferences, no doubt because of the wonderful weather that we have here during the winter months. And then of course we offer Bachelor's of Science, Master's of Science, and PhD degrees. And so we're the state flagship university. We're the highest, we claim that we're the best university in South Carolina. Obviously, our friends at Clemson would disagree, football notwithstanding. We're very high research activity as designated by the Carnegie Foundation, about 35,000 students. We're located in Columbia, South Carolina, which is the state capital. We're kind of right in the middle of everything. And so the population of Columbia is about 800,000 when you include all of the surrounding areas. So we're very close to Charlotte, Charleston, Atlanta. One of the reasons why I wanted to come here, when I left Kansas State to come here in 2005, and one of the reasons why I wanted to come here is because I wanted to be close to the ocean, so that I had these these grandiose notions of that I would spend weekends on the beach and whatnot. And in fact, I think I went to the beach more when I lived in Kansas. And we've got a really excellent music and restaurant scene here. We're in the South, and so it's very Southern lifestyle for sure. The cost of living is very, very low. You'd probably laugh if I told you what I paid in taxes. So anyway, this kind of all goes back to part of you thinking about where you what type of place you might want to spend your career. So we're in the College of Arts and Sciences, like Dr. Zheng's group at Columbia. And so we have 18 other departments. They're very, very diverse college. So, the social sciences, the humanities, the natural sciences. And then on a grander level, the College of Arts and Sciences is just one of 13 schools and colleges at the university. And so we have medicine, law, music, engineering, business, and so forth. Now, as Dr. Haran said a moment ago, when you're preparing for an on-campus interview, it's very, very good to have just kind of a general idea of what the structure of the university is like. So for example, what college you're in, what role does, how many, what are the different colleges? I mean, because as both of the first two speakers said, those give way to very, very good openings to have conversations. So for example, does the department collaborate with this group, or do they collaborate with that group? And so, having a general idea of the structure of the university can be very, very beneficial, not only for your own knowledge, but also for the people that you interview with. It no doubt shows a sign that you've done your homework, which is something that I'll talk about here in a minute. And so we also have a department of biostatistics, like our friends at Columbia and Penn State do. Our honors college is ranked #1 in the nation, which surprises a lot of people, but it's true. And actually 20% of the statistics majors are honors students, which ranks us #1 in the college. And so, our department is going, like lots of statistics departments we're kind of undergoing a transition. I mean, obviously we want to retain the core strengths in methodology, statistical methodology development theory, but undoubtedly we're moving towards data science as the field moves there as well. And so all across the United States, you're seeing departments of statistics modernize their curriculum to offer more courses in modern statistical learning, machine learning, statistical learning, deep learning, analysis of big data, visualization. So that's not only happening in our department, but probably all over. And then also, as data science is becoming inherently more collaborative, it's important that that we stay in the mainstream and maintain our excellent relationships. As you can see from the previous slide, there's lots of scientists that we and social scientists and people from the humanities that we can collaborate with. And we're actually starting the process of changing our department name to Department of Statistics and Data Science. There are a few other universities in the United States that have done that already. Yale, Carnegie Mellon, others. And so, this is part of our department's statement to the rest of the university that our group and our college will be the place for data science, perhaps much to the chagrin of our colleagues in other colleges, other schools. So, one of the things I've noticed as being chair of the department is that we're constantly playing defense to other colleges that want to usurp our courses and territory. And it's very important that not only me at this university, but us as a profession to stand strong and make sure that our perspectives in data science are understood and appreciated. So, so we're currently hiring for 4 positions as well, 2 visitors. And so the visiting positions are primarily designed, like Dr. Zheng said, primarily designed to serve as potentially an intermediary between a between your graduate work and a future tenure track position. So the primary emphasis of the positions are going to be on teaching, of course, undergraduate majors, but we'll also encourage collaboration and methodological research. And the start date of that is immediately. And so we're already looking at applications for the spring. And then we also have 2 tenure track positions, which my guess is most of you are potentially interested in. Both positions will emphasize modern data science. One of the positions is open rank, but I'd be perfectly happy to hire 2 excellent assistant professors. The fall and then the start date is fall, which means that we'll be reviewing applications late this year and on-campus interviews next year. And so to kind of get to the a priori selected questions, what are your preferred qualifications for a tenure track tenured faculty member? Well, they're not dissimilar from our colleagues at other universities. Since we're hiring for the visiting position, which I should say that one of our current tenured associate professors started her career here as a visitor, and so this isn't meant to be a lower type position, and it could turn out to be a fruitful career move, particularly if you envision a career in teaching, or at least one where teaching is a very, very important part of your future. Obviously, for the tenure track assistant professor, evidence of excellence, potential for excellence in research. Our last 2 hires have been data scientists from Harvard and Penn, and so our hope is that we can continue that trend. At the University of South Carolina, perhaps unlike other universities, research and teaching receive nearly equal weight. Now, I put nearly equal weight in quotes because that's not true, but it's more true here than it is at other places. And so excellence in teaching isn't sufficient for the tenure process to get tenure and promoted, but it's certainly necessary. So we value teaching here. In fact, our department was found, and many of the seminal members early on in the department espoused excellence in teaching. And then strong leadership potential. So, we're a smaller group than Dr. Zhang and Haran's group. And so we need everyone to have leadership potential. So, what are the potential distinguishing characteristics of candidates? Well, I mean, the focus of the positions are on modern data science, but we're willing to consider anyone with a degree in the statistical sciences or in the modern data science realm. Our last 2 hires have had postdocs, but actually our last 4 have. But postdocs are not necessary. Many in the associate professor cohort that we have here did not have postdocs. I did not have a postdoc. But certainly our profession is catching up with other natural sciences, in the sense that more and more of our starting assistant professors have postdocs, but it's not necessary here. And again, like I said just a moment ago, I think that because we're a smaller department, we can ill afford to hire someone that's not going to be a contributor. And so that's not true in other departments where they can be kind of hidden away in the corner. And so we're really looking for people that will come here and contribute to the overall mission, not only of the department, but of the college and the university. And we, as such, we celebrate our successes together. That's the team player attitude. And as Dr. Haran said in his talk, that's something that people are going to be looking for when you interview. Is ultimately someone's going to ask, can I envision myself working with this individual? And so being a team player, willing to help the department, willing to help your colleagues, doing your part. Those are all intangible assets to have that don't show up on a CV. And then, of course, since we have a large graduate cohort here that does a lot of undergraduate teaching, obviously those graduate students need PhD mentors as well. So I mean, both Drs. Zhang and Haran have given wonderful advice about the interview process. I guess I could just add a little bit to that. My overall piece of advice is be willing to spend an enormous amount of time doing this. Not only filling out the applications, but the pre-interview process that Dr. Haran talked about with preparing for Zoom interviews, and then the interviews themselves, by which I mean the on-campus interviews, hopefully in a post-pandemic scenario soon that involves multiple trips across the United States and interviewing and physically interviewing on campus. That all takes an enormous amount of work. Putting together an excellent application involves multiple things: cover letters, research statements, teaching statements, transcripts, getting letters of recommendation. My advice on the letters of recommendation: get people that know who you are. Don't ask the superstar researcher that in your field that everyone knows, but maybe doesn't even know you. That letter is less likely to have an impact than from someone that knows who you are, knows what you want, knows who your strengths are, and knows what your research is about. Okay, the cover letter that you put together for your application. One of the disqualifiers that I consider, and I'm chairing this year's hiring committee at USC. One of the disqualifiers I have is a cover letter that's generically written and laden with errors. Because if you can't get that right, then we're off. It's basically strike one, right? So put some time into your cover letter. As Dr. Haran mentioned, why do you want to come to Penn State? Or why do you want to go to Columbia? Or why do you want to come to the University of South Carolina? Put some effort into it. Don't send out a blanket cover letter. I'm interested in your institution. That has very little impact and oftentimes gets you going down the wrong path immediately. Do your homework, as both of our speakers have said. Put in a lot of preparation for that Zoom meeting when you meet with me and my colleagues to talk about University of South Carolina. Know something about our department. Know something about our college. Know something about our research. Ask questions. Show interest. When someone asks you, do you have any questions for us? Don't say no. Have ready to go a question that you have that shows your interest. Okay. And like Dr. Haran said, don't interview if you have if you have no intention of moving to South Carolina, then don't apply to my job. Don't apply to my job. And so, so interview at places where you conceivably would like to go. Now, sometimes you might not know. Okay, so you might not know, as Dr. Haran said, if you're unsure, sure, yeah, apply. But I mean, if you have no intention at working, geographically, perhaps because of your spouse or whatever, then keep that in mind when you're being asked to interview. And the reason is obvious, right? Is because not only is this an enormous time investment for you, but if you're spending time interviewing at a place that you have no desire to go, that's taking your time from going to another place where potentially you do want to go. So be prepared, be ready to ask questions when you're interviewing. Don't be afraid to talk about normal things. And so, if you want to talk about what the school system is like for your children, or if you want to know what the hospitals are like here, or if you want to know what the weather is like here, where do you live? Is the city safe? Can you recommend places where I should live? Or what's the traffic like? Don't be afraid to talk about normal things, because ultimately we're all normal people. or at least more so than our friends in other disciplines. But don't be afraid to talk about normal things. And that also highlights your ability to engage in a normal conversation. When I meet with my colleagues out in the hall, oftentimes we talk about normal things. We're not talking about Lindenberg central limit theory. We're talking about normal things, right? And so can you engage in a normal conversation? And obviously some of us are better than that at others. But you can practice those skills, and that's a good technique that you can use. Because ultimately, like, especially in a smaller group like ours, we are going to be very, we are going to, ask the question, can I see this individual coming here and working with him or her? Okay. Will this individual make our department a better place? And again, in a smaller department, that matters. And so, in talking about who you are, I agree with Dr. Haran. I don't think you should sell yourself. Be who you are, but hopefully that comes through, that you're willing to come here and make the department a better place. Negotiate your initial offer. I know some students are tentative at doing that, particularly our international students. But the initial offer is an initial offer. It can be negotiated, not only in terms of salary, but teaching reduction and startup costs and whatnot. Now think about it. Let's suppose that your initial offer is $90,000 per year, and let's suppose you're 30 years old, and you just increase and through a modest negotiation, let's suppose you just increase it to $92,000 per year. Well, you're not only getting $2,000 right now, you're getting the future value of $2,000 compounded annually, because all raises are coming from where your base salary is. So you're not getting $2,000 a year, you're getting the future value of $2,000 compounded annually for all these raises that you're going to get. It works out to be potentially an enormous amount of money, and it takes you maybe 10 minutes to do it. And so think about that. And then ultimately go with your guts. When I was in your shoes and interviewing for jobs, I interviewed at 7 universities. When I left the last university, I canceled my remaining talks and interviews, because the offer was given immediately and I knew I wanted to go there. And so, and my gut told me that. Now, as it turns out, I didn't stay there that long, but that's a different story that I'm not going to get into. But at the time, it was the correct decision, and it still was the correct decision. And so, much like Dr. Zheng and Haran, I think communication is the key to success. And so, not only in writing and for papers and grants, but because you want to be an effective teacher. And the successful people that I've met in our field and in all fields, usually all of those individuals have one thing in common: they're good at communicating ideas. And get involved in the profession. And so, volunteer for an ASA committee. And I know a lot of you are young, new investigators, but that's very important. Not only as you start your career, but throughout your career. And so, I like to maintain a steady balance of professional work for the American Statistical Association. So right now I'm serving as editor of the American Statistician, which, because of the p-value, the p-value issue, American Statistician is now ranked the #1 journal in our field based on the impact factors. That will change in the next few years, of course. I'd like to take credit for it, but the reality is I can take almost none. But maintain a very steady career of professional service. Not only ASA, it could be IBS, it could be IMS, because that's very important, because that's where you build your network of colleagues that you will depend on throughout your career, so that when you are asked to review a paper, or you're asking others to review papers for you, or you're just you want to throw grant ideas around, believe me, that is one of the intangible assets that a successful colleague in academics can have, is having a good network of colleagues and someone that we can bounce ideas off of. Oftentimes, the best papers and best ideas come from just chatting informally with others. So, and then like both the first two speakers, make sure you find yourself, make sure you find time for yourself to think about research, particularly early on in your career. I have a 30-minute commute to and from work. That's the time that I designate to think about research and ideas. And so, and it's important that you protect your time, and particularly as a new assistant professor, because if you think you're busy right now as a graduate student, and I know all of our colleagues will agree, if you think you're busy now as a grad student or postdoc, just wait. You're not, with all due respect, you don't really know what it means to be busy yet. And so, and just on a personal level, make sure that you have time to spend for yourself and do things that you enjoy. So for me, I'm an avid power lifter, and so that's the activities that I like to do when it not only helps me relieve stress, but it's also a very, very healthy activity. And so, one of the things I'd like to finish with is some advice that one of my mentors in grad school, Sastry Pantula, shared with me. He said, Josh, he said, every day you should wake up and think about how you can make your department a better place. Now, when I interviewed at the University of South Carolina in 2005, and when I was talking to one of the most influential members of the unit, who was John Spurrier, a non-parametrician who specialized in statistics education, and ultimately I knew one of the people that would have the most influence in making the final decision. I told John this quote right here, is that this is what this is why I want to come here, and this is one of the mottos that I live by. And certainly as being chair of the department now, this has enhanced meaning, and that every day you should wake up and think about how you can make the department a better place. And when I shared that with John, I mean, I knew right then the interview was over. I had the job. I mean, so but anyway.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Joshua, but I think we're a little bit short on time.
Okay, yeah. So that's my last slide, and so that's a great place to end it, because I can't think of a better piece of advice to leave our students with.
Absolutely,
okay.
That is excellent. Okay. Well, thank you again to all of the speakers for wonderful advice. Attendees, please feel free to put your questions in a Q&A. Currently, I do not see any questions. Don't be afraid. This is your time to ask it. And just to get us started, one thing that I would like to open up with is, over the last year, we know that all of the hiring, we all had to adapt new strategies. There's a lot of Zoom interviews, and it was quite uncertain. This year, I think we're all hoping to do interviews in person, but COVID does not align with our hopes always. And of course, there could be cases like the candidate is testing positive right before, the talk is scheduled, or for whatever personal reasons, they're not feeling comfortable to come in person. What are the plans that your departments have put in place, or thoughts, given how hard it is to plan so far in advance, on how you would address this kind of situations as they arise? And maybe we can start in the order of the speakers. So maybe Murli, Haran, can you comment first?
Sure. Yeah. I can share with all I can say is that we will have to adapt to circumstances. And right now we're planning on doing everything in person. And if the situation changes, then we will adapt. And that's about all I have to say on that. It's as I keep saying at every faculty meeting, it's an evolving situation. And sometimes I say something at the faculty meeting, and the next day the policies change entirely, and we'd have to have another meeting to discuss that. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, so at Columbia that we are starting in-person instruction tomorrow. So my standard response to everyone who want to ask me anything about spring, I said wait 2 weeks and let's see what happened to all of us. But I think we currently we have a guideline and protocol of bringing outside visitor on campus. That there is a protocol, there's approval. So it's not like last year was a blanket ban on bringing outsiders. So this year we do have protocols of going, follow guidelines to ensure safety and in-person activities. So I anticipate that we will bring some of the in-person elements back to the interview process. But also I want to say that I personally appreciate that over the past 18 months, we learned how Zoom can be very inclusive and flexible for some members of our community that cannot travel extensively. So I think some of those elements might stay even after the pandemic, just so that we can learn how to be more inclusive in our day-to-day operations.
Yeah, Irina, I think it's the same here. I mean, we're planning on-campus interviews in person, but like Dr. Haran said, I mean, wait 2 weeks, and what we think is going to happen today could be different in 2 weeks, but we are planning on-campus interviews in spring.
Great. We have some questions from the audience now. So the first question is, thank you for the great talks. Could I know suggestions for who to seek for letters of recommendation? Thank you. And you can go in, I guess, whichever order you want, because I know, Murali, you're already answering some of them, which is great.
I think I'll just echo what Joshua said, which is you should ask people who can say something useful and detailed about you. So if they can say something, the more specific the information is in a reference letter, the more valuable it is. If somebody says something very generic, it doesn't, if somebody says this person is really good, that's not a very useful letter. But if it's somebody who can actually say, yeah, this person worked with me for over the summer, and I took a class with me where she did a really wonderful project on such and such thing, then that's actually super valuable. So that's the first thing. And of course, you do have to pay attention to, it's valuable to have people who do research talking. If you want a research job, you do want faculty who do research to be writing those letters.
Tian, do you want to add anything more to this?
Yeah, when I look at the questions, I think this is another good advice to tell students who are in their early years, first year, second year. This is something that takes time to, relationship takes a lot of time to build. And you want to think if academia is somewhere you want to develop a career, think early, network early, develop relation early. You don't want when you're in the year 5 and only your dissertation advisor know you well. So you can find a lot of mentors and sponsors of your research early on by being proactive.
And also, just finally, if you're applying to an institution that does involve teaching, maybe a more modest amount of teaching, then it might also be helpful to include that 4th recommendation letter from someone that knows, that can talk about your teaching ability, because one of the things that I think about as chair is what type of class can I give this new assistant professor, and if I know that I can, if I know something about the teaching ability, that's something that could add to the strength of your application, is someone that can talk about your teaching.
Thank you. I would like to actually add one more thing for recommender letters, because I've heard it from students that they only look at the faculty within their department. And I want to encourage to widen your horizons, to maybe faculty from other departments that you interacted or faculty at consulting centers. And depending on the position that you apply, that may be beneficial to add to your list.
For what it's worth, with my PhD students who do interdisciplinary research, who apply for jobs where they're excited about interdisciplinary research, I usually have them have two letters from stats folks, and one from an interdisciplinary collaborator who can speak at length about their ability to talk across disciplines. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, that's great. There is one question specifically to Penn State. So it says that Penn State had started reviewing the tenure track job applications on September 1st. Can you please comment on tentative timelines for the first round of interviews?
Oh, sure. Yeah, thank you for asking that. So we say we start reviewing, that's just the beginning. It just means that we're happy to look at applicants very early in the process, because if we see interesting people, we're happy to interview you in the fall semester, even early fall, if we see interesting candidates. So this is by no means a deadline. This is only when we start. But of course, the earlier that you put your materials together, the better. But if you submitted materials in November, which is typically when most deadlines are, those things are changing, we would still consider you. Of course, we were going to consider interesting candidates for a long period of time. But if you have your materials ready, send it whenever they're ready. In fact, what you could do is you could send in your materials, and even if it's incomplete, we don't have all the reference letters yet, at least we have some information to begin conversations with you. Thanks for asking that.
Thank you. Anything else on the interview timeline that you would like to add, Tiana or Joshua, as pertains to your positions?
So we don't have a firm timeline yet. So if we can use past year as a reference point, we usually start reviewing applications in late fall and start scheduling interview in late January. That is a typical statistical job market timeline.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think our timeline is going to be very, very similar. We'll start looking at applications, and I think we'll have a deadline of probably November 1st or November 15th for applications, and then secure interviews, Zoom interviews in December, early December, and then on-campus interviews early 2022.
Thank you. I think another question that I know that Merle and Tiana have already answered in chat, but just so that everyone knows, I would like to hear more about the take on whether to go the postdoc route or apply to an academic position. If there's anything else you want to add to that.
Sure, I'm happy to speak to this because I have a lot of experience with dealing with this with my own PhD students. So postdocs can be fantastic. They can take you from where you are and launch your career and give you options that you wouldn't have in a couple of years. But they can also not be fantastic in that, if it's a 2-year postdoc, you have to keep in mind that you have roughly about 16 months after moving to a new place to get enough work to beef up your CV. And that's not very much time. So one general piece of advice I have for people is if you actually are going to do a postdoc, you must, regardless of what the postdoc is, you must have ongoing projects that you're planning to do in parallel. This is just a way to do some risk management, because then you essentially have a few things that you think will certainly get done regardless of how the postdoc goes. And then when you go do the postdoc, you should do sort of, quote unquote, high risk things where it might be a new topic, new work with new collaborators. You should be open to that because of course you're launching your career you're thinking long term, but it's good to have those things in parallel, because I'm quite sure for at least for a couple of my students, if they didn't continue to work with me and some of the other collaborators they wouldn't have had enough papers coming out of their postdoc to get jobs afterwards. People don't do the arithmetic right. They think postdoc means 2 years, but it's really 16 months, and it's really a lot less than that. So you should keep that in mind. And then just to address the thing about whether postdoc or assistant professor, the reason I say apply to both is because you don't actually know ahead of time what postdocs are out there or what kind of assistant professor positions you will land. The best way to find out is to just do it, and then you can try to compare what you land up getting. And there, in many cases, you'll be surprised. You might actually get a better assistant professor position than a postdoc position. Much, it sounds surprising, but it can happen. And then it's not like a postdoc will always guarantee you a better position in the future. That's something that students always think, well, if I'm this good now, in a little while, I will be better, so I will get better jobs. It doesn't work out quite that way. There's just a lot of uncertainties. So I just wanted students to be aware of that. It's a really good question. And please talk to your mentors on this, because finding about postdoc mentors, it's impossible to learn about these things from websites. You have to ask people who know.
Thank you. We had some other questions coming that are new. So one question is, I'm a fresh, new, recent graduate. I'm in a teaching postdoc phase and looking for a long-term research position. Do you have any advice as to finding research collaborators?
Are you in a place currently where you have, so I guess the question, I'm not sure I've completely heard the whole thing, but you're currently you're in a position where you are looking to develop new research collaborators. Is that right? So if that's the case, then I guess you have to literally go and knock on doors or email people. But the best possible way to find new collaborators is to talk to other people who have collaborators and see if they can connect you. It's hard to sometimes just have a cold call or connect, but you should just do all of the above. And it's very difficult to find really good collaborators. So I recommend a breadth first search, as they would say in computer science. You just ask lots of people, and a few of them will end up becoming good collaborators. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, I would add, I think definitely make all your senior colleagues aware that you're looking, that because the gravity, how the gravity force works is that many people who need statistician and data scientists go for the bigger names, and the bigger names are always super busy to address all this requests. So make your senior colleague aware that you're looking for collaborators, so then they will loop you in when they see a good fit. Secondly is that a lot of university institutes run seed grant funding programs. They sometimes do research social, interdisciplinary seminars. Go to those places, hang out, network, go to the wine and cheese receptions, talk to people, and then at least you can get a better feeling of what kind of statistical need they're looking for. This way that go after a little bit, you know where to look, which institute are more likely to get a good fit for you.
Yeah, I mean, I find this question to be incredibly difficult to answer because it's a very general question. It's an important question, but what I found in my career is that collaborators or people that I work with, not only in statistical methodology, but that's really kind of a lifelong process, right? Where you're meeting people, your research interests change, you're meeting new people, you're getting out, going to conferences, talking to people about ideas. I rarely wake up in the morning and ask myself, I need to go find a collaborator today. That happens as our research interests and our ideas are come into focus and perhaps change over time. But with that being said, there's certainly things you could do to avail yourself of the opportunity to meet new people, go to conferences, like Dr. Zheng said, go to seminars, go to socials, talk about ideas. You'll find that people are much more likely to want to work with you if you show an interest in their work and you have good ideas on your own.
Thank you very much. We have one more question on the Q&A. I think there has already been some responses, but the question is, how can we show the teaching ability and what can be done during a PhD program as well as during the postdoc to demonstrate that ability?
You have to teach, so you have to find ways to teach, and then you want evidence of the teaching. You have to have somebody to observe you when you teach. So you teach, have somebody observe you when you teach, and that's sort of the easiest way to do this.
I think everything you demonstrate in your application package and everything you do during the interview process, can demonstrate your potential as a teacher. Your written communication skills, your organization skills in your application materials, your reference letter can comment on your teaching potential, even though you have not taught independently. We trust your letter writer's assessment of your teaching ability. And during your interview, your teaching statement, how thoughtful is it? Whether you have really thought hard about the need of future students and how you would like to take a creative approach there. And then during your interviews, the way you communicate with others you meet, especially when you interview, often in our department, we have non-statisticians coming for the talk, and sometimes they show interest in meeting with a job candidate. Do you have interest meeting with them? We will also be meeting with our students, and our students will give us feedback how they see you as a teacher and mentor. So all of these will be, you will have opportunity to show as your teaching potentials. I think your homework is to develop that potential.
That's a great point, especially the teaching. Your job talk is the single fastest way to convince somebody that you're a good teacher. If you're up there and you're crystal clear in your explanation, and every PhD student is going to understand what you say, as I mentioned earlier, job talks are a great way to demonstrate that you're a great teacher.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And I can say that a lot of you are probably are coming from institutions that different types of institutions where perhaps some of you have a variety of teaching experiences as an instructor of record. Perhaps others of you have served as a TA where you haven't taught your own class. And so you're going to have different backgrounds. I guess my advice is to highlight your potential to be an excellent teacher. So perhaps if you're coming from an institution where you haven't had your own course to teach, say you're in a biostatistics department, then talk about your potential to teach. And know that when you do that first Zoom interview or when you do that on-campus interview, you will likely be asked the following question: what classes would you like to teach here? Or similarly, what new courses can you imagine bringing here? And so while it's important to think about research and certainly you want to demonstrate and highlight your research bona fides, but also as part of this profession, we're also teachers. So you want to do an equally good job of preparing for how you're going to handle questions related to teaching. And as Dr. Horan said, one of the best surrogates for how to measure potential for teaching is your job talk. And that's why all eyes are on you. For that 50 minutes, the entire department stops to watch you. So.
Well, thank you so much. There are no more questions, and I think we're out of time. I would like to thank again all of our panelists for all their advice that they have given to attendees. And I would like to thank all their attendees for the questions. This event will be recorded. So if you had a friend who is also on the job market, but for whatever reason couldn't attend, I encourage you to share this information. And I think at the end, we adjourn. Oh, and there's just been a posting that there may be some comments and suggestions survey for everyone. So if there's something that you wanted to know that has not been discussed and would like to see in the future career panels, We very much appreciate your opinion.
Good luck to everyone finally, and I'm sure I speak for my colleagues. If you have any questions, please email us. Either interest in our specific positions or just interest more generally. Good luck to everyone.
Likewise. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Irina.
Thanks to the organizers.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, everybody.
you.
Bye-bye.